There we go.
Do you want me to pull the chat box up or you want to pull it yourself?
I didn't hear you.
I'll pull the chat box up so you can see it in the corner.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome to the Garden Coach session for this week. Boy, have we seen a lot of incredible weather changes, and I've been watching the plants. You can just see them growing every time you leave the house and come home. You can see the plants just growing and growing and growing. I have to ask you all, how many of you noticed how good your lawns are looking? If you got the fertilizer down for Memorial Day, or even a little earlier, the lawns have just, with the temperature, the higher temperatures that we have, the lawns have really thickened up. So this is the time to kind of pay attention to them. And if you don't have the fertilizer, if you've not put a fertilizer, get that fertilizer down. So I'm Jennifer Brennan. I'm the Horticulture Information Specialist here at Chalet. I've been here 29 years. And right now, you'll see me out at the Plant Information office, or the desk. There are windows now, and so there's 2 windows that people can come and bring their samples, and boy, have I got some good samples to show you today. So and I've got some great questions right here. So what we decided, and we would have really good luck with this, is I would talk about the most important things that you should be looking at for your garden now, this week, and then I'll answer all the questions afterwards. So, and I've got the chat box up. So if you add any, questions, I'll be watching those as well to be able to get those answered, as well. So to start, the thing that is probably the most important is any newly planted plants. You really have to watch over them and take care of them. And I always like to say, there's the rule of thumb is that you want to treat them like intensive care patients. And so yesterday was interesting. The day before was 95. Oh my gosh, ridiculous for this early in June. And I was so worried, and I pulled the watering wand, okay, a watering wand. And I love these. These are from the Dram Company, and they have this wonderful thumb drive on it. And all you do is push the thumb up, and that's full speed. Halfway is just a little water, that's off. So you do it with one hand, so your hand's free with this. And then this is the short one, so I could get it on the screen. I like the long one, so that when you're watering the roots of a plant, and that's what you really want to focus on, you want to make sure the roots are nice and wet and nice and hydrated. Now, I don't know if you all know that when a plant is planted, newly planted in the ground, the roots are in the root ball. It takes 6 to 8 weeks for those roots to grow out of the root ball into the surrounding soil. It's possible the surrounding soil can still be moist. And on a day like we had on Monday, that was Tuesday, this is Thursday, on Tuesday, where we had high winds and 95-degree temperatures, that causes the plants to transpire. And that means the water is just wicked out of them. And it's, transpiration is the same as perspiration for humans. Transpiration is with plants. That can pull all of the moisture out of the roots. And if the roots aren't in the surrounding soil, there's no way for them to pull moisture out of that moist soil. So plants can really get stressed, really get dried out, and have damage, a lot of damage. So I like to always encourage people on newly planted plants for the first 6 to 8 weeks, treat them like intensive care patients. So that means watering and hand watering the root ball every other day. You don't want to do it every day, because watering every day forces all of the oxygen out of the soil. You don't want that. But every other day is really good for newly planted plants. Now, some of the questions I had were newly planted plants that were wilting out, and I'm sure that's it, but I'll address that when we get to the questions. So the fun thing about, getting ready to do this is what happened yesterday morning. It was Mother Nature, just when I was going to make sure everyone knew about, hand watering their root balls, Mother Nature gave us a beautiful soaking. And it was like when we go work out and we work in the garden and we get all sweaty, you know, we feel so much better when we go in and have a shower and then drink, you know, a big glass of cold water. That's what Mother Nature did to all our plants yesterday. She gave them a shower after that hot day on Tuesday and a good drink of water. So it was a blessing. It was really a blessing. But, you know, don't get tricked by that. Don't get tricked and say, oh, it rained once this week, I don't have to worry about my plants. If they're newly planted, you want to make sure. And then measure what you got at your house. You know, ideally, and I'm embarrassed to say, I didn't look at my rain gauge this morning. Oh my gosh, that's really odd for me. So, you know, next week I'll be able to report how much rain I had in my rain gauge. But remember that, always watch for that. Now, isn't it odd? It's so odd. And I was going to talk about a sample that came in, and it just seems so odd to even be talking about this, especially this sample came in on that 95-degree day. And so to tell the person that this was damage from the hard freeze on Mother's Day seems ridiculous to talk about that. But I have to show you this because we've seen a lot of samples like this. So this is a daisy plant, and this is, you know, all of her daisy plants in this one side of her garden had this problem. You can see the leaves here, and then, but I want to show you, see the tips, see how the tips are all blackened right there? Now, these tips were, you know, right at the top of the plant back on Mother's Day. And that was just 3 weeks ago. And we had that hard freeze. So the frost came down, settled on this, and just froze the tips. Now, what's happened since then, you can see the flower buds developed. So that flower bud was protected by those new shoots, so it didn't get damaged at all. And since then, these leaves, the lower leaves, have grown up over the edge of, you know, of the tip, and they'll just keep growing. And when the flower bud extends and goes up, you won't even notice the damaged tips. But that's, and the whole garden, the whole side of her garden, where the frost settled down and froze right on top of it, it all looked like that. She was afraid it was a brand new disease. So be aware of that. We're seeing that on trees. We're seeing that on shrubs. And, you know, especially the leaves were just starting to open and uncurl. One side is all blackened from the frost damage. So kind of be on the lookout for, you know, for that. Weather really controls us in all of our garden situations here. So, okay. So now the next thing I wanted to tell everyone to watch out for is now with these warmer temperatures, the insects are all opening. And that's based on what we call the growing degree days. And as every day goes by, we have a base 50 growing degree day. We also, and the farmers and the agricultural people focus on a base 30, but we focus on base 50. So every day that it's over 50 degrees, we take the temperature change between like 95 to 50, that was a 45-point reading. And that gets added to a cumulative number called the growing degree day. And different things happen at different levels of growing degree days. And this has just been classic. Now, one of the most awful ones that I need to talk about is the Viburnum leaf beetle. I've got a great sample right here, and I want to show you that. Okay. The leaf beetle, it moved into our area 6 years ago. And the way I know that is that I had a Facebook reminder that popped up on my Facebook page. And I had posted a picture from my microscope of the first larva that came in. Hold on, I thought I was better organized. Just a minute. Okay, here we go. And I have a bunch of frost things here that I wanted to show you, but you kind of get the drift. Oh, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and talk about the frost and disease on hostas. And we had this problem. Oh gosh, I think we first started seeing this really severely. It was 5 years ago when we started having the really wet springs. Every year we had a wet spring, and it warmed up and then got wet and then cooled down. Not unlike, you know, this year. And what Oh, drat. Okay, this is it right here. And this is a hosta. And this is just the green leaf type hostas. You know, we kind of joke, we've all joked about this for years, that this is the hosta that lines all, traditionally has lined all the driveways in Winnetka for years and years and years. And so we jokingly call this the Winnetka weed. But it's a green leaf hosta. And this is what's happening. And I can hold it close to the camera here. See this is frost tip here. That's frost tip. And then the yellow and brown dots that are on the leaves are from a fungus, and we call it an anthracnose, and it's a leaf spot disease. And then a lot of the hostas, they just look terrible, because then you have the frosted leaves with these, and you look at a whole line of these hostas looking like this. The easiest and the best things to do is to take a systemic fungicide. My favorite is the Immunox, and it's from the Spectricide, but it's Immunox, and it's a systemic fungicide. You spray on the leaves, it stays in and is taken down into the new shoots that are coming up, and it stays in those parts, those plants, for 14 days, even if it rains. So this is one of the best things you can do. Spray it, and then you're all gonna gasp. You're gonna have gasps of horror, because if you have a whole row of these hostas that look like this, you're gonna fire up the lawnmower and set the level at 6. That's the highest setting for the lawnmower, and just mow all of this damaged leaves down. And then fertilize it. I like to use holly tone on hostas, fertilize it, and then spray every 2 weeks with the Immunox. And by the end of the month, you'll have a whole new stand of hostas without all the damage to them. And many of these hostas have been in the same spot for years and years and years. So they've got a lot of good root development down below the ground. So that's the best way to take care of that. I know it sounds pretty extreme, but it really works. It really does. It really takes care of the trick. Now, the sample that I thought I threw in here, I didn't, but I have an old one, and this looks really gross. This is a leaf, a viburnum leaf, and you can see all the larvae are right here, and they finished feeding, and then they would, if they were outside, they would have dropped to the ground and pupated, and then they would stay in the ground for 8 weeks, and then come back out as adults at the end of July, early August, and eat all the leaves off the plant again. This moved in 6 years ago, and it's horrible. It's the worst insect I've ever seen, and there's no native predators to eat it and take care of it. So the main thing you have to do, if you see a viburnum that is showing leaves that are looking like stained glass because all the leaf tissue's been eaten out, you really have to use an insecticide, immediately. And so I like the systemic insecticides. We have it in a hose-in sprayer, but it's also like this, and this is imidacloprid, sprayed on the leaves. All you have to do is spray one surface. It's going to be taken into the tissues that are left. If you hit any of the larvae with contact with this, it will kill them. And then I like to use the systemic, which is a drench, and you measure the height of the shrub and measure 3 times 3. So if it's a 6-foot shrub, multiply that times 3. That's the number of ounces of the systemic insecticide that you mix in water and pour at the base. And then it's taken up in that shrub and stays in for a full year. So I like to tell people to kind of wait till the end of the season to do that. And then it's protecting your shrubs all the way from the end of the summer till the end of next summer. And so it really does the trick. So kind of be on the lookout for that. Here's the boxwood. I talked about the boxwood last week, but these came in new today. This came to the desk today. Okay, see this little insect right there? He's called a plant bug. Pretty original name, huh? No, but that's a classification of insects. And they're insects that have a stylus or a needle for a mouth part. And what they do, I'm afraid to open this up to let the insect out, but here, I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm tough. And okay, I've got it. Uh-oh. Well, I'm not gonna worry. Okay, so this is what it does. it inserts its mouth part into each section, sucks a section dry, and then moves to another section and another section and another section and another section. This is really distinctive of plant bug damage. And you can see where the needle was inserted and then sections were sucked dry. There's 7 different types of plant bugs that are in our garden. And this is the one that shows up early all the time. Again, use a contact insecticide or use a systemic insecticide, and that will take care of them. And don't worry, the plants will just keep growing. And as the new leaves form, you won't have the damage. You can prune this off, but it's not necessary. It still photosynthesizes. Okay, this is another one. I'm seeing tons of this. These are peach trees. And the peach trees are showing a fungal leaf disease that is called peach leaf curl. Okay, this is what a leaf looks like normally, but it's just getting started. See, it's starting to pucker there. And then this leaf got it really early, and see, it's all curled up. That's why they call it peach leaf curl. Now, the really good examples also turn like a bright orange red. And I thought no, it's not doing that. But that's peach leaf curl. And so you have to use copper spray on it. And the best time to use that is in the fall when the leaves have all dropped off. Spray all the bark because the fungus sticks to the bark and it also stays underneath the bud scales. So spray then, spray again in March, and then spray once a week as the new leaves are coming out, and it'll prevent them from getting inoculated. It doesn't affect the fruit, so you don't have to worry about that. And these leaves that are still green, even though they're curled up, they still photosynthesize, so they'll still do a good job, for your plants. Now, people that are coming in are saying because of the heat, a lot of these damaged leaves are dropping off. And that's because new leaves are forming. And when a plant gets stressed because of heat and rapid transpiration rate, then what happens is they drop off anything that's damaged. And they say, we only have enough of our assets, water, and nutrients to go around. So anybody that's damaged gets jettisoned off. So, okay, I have a question right here. Some of the leaves on the Annabelle's hydrangeas are curling, and it's not curling. Oh, I left that sample downstairs. Okay, I've had a whole bunch of samples of, they're called leaf curlers. And what'll happen is the tips, the leaves look puckered together. They look like cups that were fused together. And what this insect does is the egg gets laid on the inside of a leaf, the larva hatches, and then it spins out kind of a web, silk, and it binds all the, it affects the 4 outer leaves of a tip of a plant. So the bigger leaves and then 2 smaller leaves are inside. He fuses the second set together, and so you can peel them apart, but you really have to pull. It's like they've been glued together. So what happens is right now they've actually fed on the youngest leaves. They pupated, so they spun a cocoon inside that pocket, and then most of them have pupated and come out, and they chew their way out of the leaves and leave as a moth. And they only have 1 life cycle, and so that's usually it. And what you can do is just go and prune off all those curled, those are called leaf curls, curl those tips off or cut those tips off, prune them off, and the plant's ready to go. And then the new growth that comes will form the Annabelle hydrangeas. So it's an interesting, they've lived together and they've learned to make it work really well. Okay. All right, so let's keep going. All right, I've shown you my fun, gross samples, and no, they're interesting. They're interesting samples. So I've shown that. I want to make sure that I've covered all my topics. All right, now is the time, with the high humidity and the warmer temperatures, to protect things that get things like apple scab and peonies. They'll get peony measles, and then they also will get a rhizoctonia, which is a stem rot. And so this is when you want to make sure and spray with the systemic fungicides. There's that Immunox again, and spray every 2 weeks to protect them. I also have a great product that has an incredible fungicide in it, and it's called myclobutanil. And then it has a systemic insecticide and a systemic miticide. This would also work for, you know, the peonies and the roses and you know, phlox, that you want to keep the mildew off. So do that to protect them so it doesn't, you know, it doesn't happen. Now the other thing is slugs. Slugs are going to start waking up. It's as soon as the cell temperature hits 60, and between 60 and 65, the slugs wake up, and then they start chewing on the hostas and all the other ground dwelling plants like Ligularia and sometimes even heucheras. They'll go for the heucheras. They'll go to the crowns of the heucheras. So you want to make sure you spread your Sluggo, and it's 1 teaspoon every 3 square feet. And this pound jar is enough for 1,000 square feet. So we all tend to overuse it, because I know I hate slugs and I hate the gooey things, and I hate the damage that they cause. So you want to make sure you're using your Sluggo. Another thing that I'm getting tons and tons of questions about are containers, and people are planting their containers on their balconies and on their patios, and they may not have had good luck with them last year. Last year was another one of those summers where it got really hot and really dry at the end of the year. I love teaching people about soil moist. Soil moist is like insurance for containers. It's an acrylic polymer, and then this also has a time-release fertilizer in it. And I don't know if you can see the granules in there. The white ones are the acrylic polymer. And you could put one of those in water and just keep putting it in a bigger glass and bigger, and it will inflate to be about a 2-inch gooey gel. And you add this to your soil, and then with a time-release fertilizer, and it will last for 4 months. And this actually releases water to roots if the soil dries out. And then the fertilizer, you know, releases nutrient for 4 months. So this is one of the best things to make your containers look gorgeous. And it's like insurance in case it gets too hot and too dry. You still have to water them once a day, but you don't have to do it twice a day. So these are the things I like to make people really aware of. Okay, so now, okay, here we go. Oh, this is fun. I'm seeing lots of cicadas. Is that unusual? Well, we're ready. In 4 years, we're due to have the 17-year cicadas emerging. And there are some colonies, excuse me, pardon me, that are early. And so we're seeing a lot. I had a woman yesterday that must have had 40 cicadas all in her hostas. And they were emerging out from the tree roots where they'd been living probably for the past 15 or 17 years. Tom Skilling also had a report on Facebook about watch out for cicadas. So I think we're going to be seeing more of them than usual. It seems really early for them to be emerging right now. I'm sorry, usually it's not till the end of June. So I think these warmer temperatures are really, you know, kicking things up. Excuse me just a minute, I'm going to grab a sip of my tea. I talk too much, don't I? Do you like my Yeti? My friend Renee gave me this for Christmas. It's wonderful. I still have ice in here from when I put it in at 6 this morning. Cool tool. Okay, excuse me for going off on a tangent here. Okay, I'm looking at a couple other, okay, what mulch to put on plants in the garden. I'm enjoying these sessions. Oh, well, thank you so much. Okay, the mulches. Now, if you're mulching woody shrubs and woody trees, we usually like to recommend that you use a woody mulch, you know, and it's like a shredded bark or a chunk bark. For things like roses and perennials, vegetable gardens, we like to recommend that you use more of a leaf-based mulch. So chalet leaf mulch, chalet, composted leaf mulch, and then also the cotton burr compost. Cotton burr is like a hybrid cross between leaf mulch and a bark mulch. They take the whole cotton plant after the cotton balls have been harvested, and the burr is a woody structure that holds the cotton ball, and they chop it all up and compost it. And so it really is like a hybrid cross between a woody shredded bark mulch and a leaf mulch. So I like that because it can work for all, all mulching. And you want to put it about 2 inches thick. 2 inches, we say 2 to 4. And because we've had a lot of rain in the last month, only 2 inches is good. And what that does is that keeps the moisture more consistent when we have these fluctuating temperatures. And it also keeps the temperature more consistent. So when we have a hot day, that mulch keeps the root zone cooler. And if it gets cool, the mulch keeps the heat in the soil. So it's a real nice buffer. And the research shows you get 80% more root development on the plants that have been mulched, especially woody trees and shrubs. So that was a great, great question. Okay, will the systemic strain kill bees and butterflies? Okay, when you use systemic insecticides, because they stay in the leaves for 30 days, and the way they're made up is, so say this is the plant, my arm is the stem, and the flower is where my wrist is, or where my fist is. Where my wrist is, there's a membrane in the plant, the flower plant, that prevents any chemicals from going across into the flower and into the fruit. And so it's not gonna affect any of the bees and butterflies because it's not in the nectar and it's not in the pollen. Now, we say spray in, late in the afternoon or early evening. So it's absorbed in the plant, and you're spraying when the pollinators have gone back to their hives and are rested for night. So, and the nice thing is on the one that lasts 30 days, is you're only spraying once every 30 days. Whereas if you're using the Earth Friendly Naturals, you're spraying once a week. And the Earth Friendly Naturals, even though it's Earth Friendly Natural, will kill, bees and butterflies. So you have to use it with a conscience, and then decide. If you've got a butterfly garden, of course you're not going to spray any of that in there, but you're talking about your vegetables and your fruit and things like that. Then, use your good judgment. That was a great, great question. Very good question. Okay, now let's keep going. And I'm going to get to the questions that people sent in also instead of just the chat box. All right. What, things to watch out for in the garden. Okay, we've talked about all those. And then what to do. This is what you do, again, protect the plants that have had insect problems in the past and disease problems in the past. Now is the time to do the protection. And then you want to treat your boxwood shrubs and your viburnum shrubs. And, that's, again, protecting. And then I started this off about if you haven't done your early summer fertilizer on your lawn, you need to get that down now. And the ideal time for that is from Memorial Day, which is May 31st, to June 15th. So we're right in the middle right now. So you can get that on those plants or on the lawn, and boy, you'll be amazed at how it picks up. Now, if you do have weeds, if you have more than 30% weeds, consider using a weed and feed. If not, just spot spray the weeds, and you can either use an earth-friendly natural product called Natria, or Natria, either way. And this is made from a chelated iron. It's called iron hedida. You can spray it on the grass, and since the grass blades are vertical, that product goes all the way to the soil, and iron is in the soil. On weeds, they're horizontal, so it stays on the surface, and when the sun shines on those weeds, it causes iron toxicity. They turn black. It is so neat because you can see the work you've done, and it kills the tops. You might have to respray every 6 weeks because they can come back from the roots. But this, again, earth-friendly natural. And then one of the best ones, if you're going to use a synthetic is the chickweed clover and oxalis. And this is actually the label on the inside names over 200 weeds. And these are just the bad guys, so they got the top billing. But this also takes care of creeping Charlie and it's on the label right here. It also takes care of wild violets, and those are some of the biggest problems we have in our lawns. And you spray them, and on those difficult weeds, you might have to spray two weeks in a row, but they'll die in 10 days. So this is the time to take care of all that. And then if you fertilize first, it's rev their metabolism up. These are plant hormones, and it pulls them in, and it kills the the weeds faster. Okay, so I've covered all my points where I wanted to kind of get you up to speed for the week. And now here are our questions that I'm gonna go ahead and answer. Okay. Oh, the grapevine leaves have holes in them, and they want to know what's eating them, and that's again one of the leaf beetles. And so again, you can use an earth-friendly natural spray on it, and that's the tomato vegetable, and it's just the tomato and vegetable insecticide. Oh, I thought I brought that. I didn't bring it. But it's made with sulfur. Sulfur takes care of any fungal problems. And then the earth-friendly natural insecticide is derived from an organically grown daisy plant. And it's a pyrethrin, and it will kill the insects on contact. Spray at dusk when all the pollinators are back at their hives. And then the next morning when the sun comes out, the sun shines and it breaks down any residue. And then you can wash, and if you use the grape leaves to make dolmades, then you can still use them. Okay, what is the best fertilizer for summer pots of annuals? And does Chalet sell a big bag? That's cool. We do. I would say the best fertilizer is it's called the Bud and Bloom Booster, and that's from Dr. Earth. And I think we just sell that in a 4-pound bag. You could also use the rose and flower fertilizer, and we sell that in a 4-pound bag, an 8-pound bag, and a 4-pound bag, and then a 12-pound bag, and then we also have it in a 25-pound bag. And for containers, it's one application lasts 30 days because we water containers more frequently. If it's out in the garden, an application of Dr. Earth fertilizers will last for 60 days. So nice, so nice. Great question. Okay, why are the roses Sharon dying off? Oh man, I must have had 5 people at the information desk talking about how they've lost Rosa Sharon. And Rosa Sharon really took a hit a year ago in February when we had that 29 below. And if it didn't kill them then it stunned them enough that most of them didn't save enough energy in their root systems, so they have not come back this year. So that's, and it says each summer, one more dies out, of an original hedge. Okay, you said you had 12. And it's not really age, but you know what you can do on Rosa Sharon? They flower better on new wood. So it's a plant that really responds well to rejuvenation pruning. So on Rosa Sharon, I always recommend that you prune them back at least a third in the height every year. And you do that now, and usually April, but also May. This is June now, but you prune them back, and then the new growth comes. You're encouraging new wood, and that new wood flowers better, and so that's okay. That's, yeah, I love it. Do these plants require more care than we realize? It was just that they got hit so hard by that 29 below. They're actually a type of hibiscus that is hardy, here in our zone 5, but it's still a hibiscus. So when our temperatures drop lower than zone 5, man, it hit them hard. It really hit them hard. Okay, here's the next question. Do all of our plants require extra care rather than their natural growing conditions? Is it just the way it is in urban areas? I have, I can't read that. Fucahensis azaleas that were beautiful in bloom, but otherwise look overgrown. Okay, how do I prune? Is it okay to cut them back a lot? Is it possible to cut Monarda to minimize height before they bud? Ooh, good questions. Okay, yes, you can prune the Fucahensis azaleas back. Again, you want to encourage new wood, and after they finish flowering, it's the perfect time. And you actually have 6 to 8 weeks to prune before the new buds start forming for next year. So they probably finished blooming about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. So that gives you 3 more weeks to get them pruned back, and follow that rule of 1/3. Cut it back 1/3 in the height, cut 1/3 of the oldest, thickest stems out, and that will encourage new wood, and it will really rejuvenate them. Now, Monarda, that's great. Tracy de Sabato Aust is this wonderful writer who they call her Tracy Scissorhands, and she has done a wonderful book on pruning, and she's the one that talked about pruning Monarda, and that's bee balm. And you can actually prune a big clump, prune the front half of it down 1/3, let the back half go ahead and bloom. And then while it's blooming, the front half is starting to bloom. When that finishes blooming, cut that back, and then the front is in bloom, and then you'll get a second bloom on the, on the back half. So that's a great thing. And you can also, if you know you're going to be away on vacation at, certain, like in the end of July, cut your Monardas back just now, and then that slows them down, and so then they'll be in bloom when you come back from vacation. Neat tricks. Tracy de Sabato Aust, and it's her book on pruning. Okay, now here's another one. Can you prevent powdery mildew on plants? Yes, you can, but you really need to use, you need to use a preventative. There are a lot of plants and varieties of plants that are prone to powdery mildew that have had cultivars selected because they're resistant to powdery mildew. But if you want to control it, use the Immunox. Use the all-in-one or the 3-in-1 insect disease and control. That that will prevent it. And then if you just want to use a copper fungicide, we have a liquid copper fungicide that's called copper soap or copper octanoate, and you spray that on now, and then that prevents the spore, the powdery mildew spore, from coming on it. A lot of people say avoid watering. But we usually see powdery mildew worse on the plants when we get into hot, humid days of summer and we don't have rainfall. And what that does is when we do get rain, that washes the spore off the surfaces of the leaves. So it can prevent the powdery mildew. If we don't have rain, just high humidity, then the spore builds up, and then all of a sudden we just get this horrible outgrowth of powdery mildew. And we oftentimes will see, it's called sheeting, when we get really, really high humidity, high humidity and high temperatures. You can see the mycelium will grow up over it, and it's like strings of mycelium up over the tips. I've actually had samples come in where the mycelium grew up over feeding aphids, and then you put it in the microscope and you see the aphids all trapped under the mycelium. It's pretty interesting. But use it preventative, treat them. And if you do water, water enough that you're hosing off the leaves, do that enough time so that the leaves will dry off before they go to sleep at night, and you don't have wet surfaces on the leaves to encourage the growth of the powdery mildew. That was a great, great question. Okay, what's the best plant or flower to grow on a brick wall that is facing south, so it receives quite a bit of direct ample sunlight? Okay, I think I'm going to take this as what will work in front of a brick wall instead of growing on a brick wall, because to me that seems like more of a climber, a vine, and I would use plants that can tolerate high heat and can tolerate getting a little dry. So some of my favorites are any of the salvias. The salvias are toughies like that. They can hold up to that. The annual Vinca flower, it's Catharanthus is the Latin name, but the annual Vinca flower, beautiful. They look like sun-loving impatiens because they have the same shaped leaf, beautiful green, and the same shaped flower, and often the same colors of the impatiens. And you guys, I know I mentioned it the last one, the regular impatiens, the Wallerianas, there's a hybrid out there now called Beacon, and it's resistant to the impatiens downy mildew. So you can do those shade-loving plants again, and they just look gorgeous. Okay, but back to the growing on a brick wall. Again, salvias, geraniums love hot and dry. Oh my gosh, they're fabulous and hot and dry like that. And even if it's just dappled light, you'll still have I think you'll have enough light to do that. Okay, how can I get my strawberries to grow bigger? Well, the main thing is you want to give them fertilizer, and the bud and bloom booster is excellent. Even the rose and flower is wonderful. So you want to give them that nutrient, and you know, and then if they've been planted in the same place for several years, you might need to you know, divide them up, or take the plants that are produced from the runners and start with those, and then have that young blood and get better, and then get rid of the older plants. So, but definitely fertilize, and, you know, give them some good, you know, lots of water. You want to make sure you water them on a regular basis, not every day, but at least every other day, because, you know, 80% of that fruit is water, you know, so that's how you get it. And then look at the variety that you have, and then you can get larger varieties, you know, if you want to do that. Great question. Okay, the garden is planted, yay, but lots of ants in some areas. What can be used to get rid of these? You know, I like, and I was talking about the Sluggo, and, you know, the Sluggo has a product, and there's one called Sluggo Plus, and it's not this one, but it says Sluggo Plus on it. And there's an additive in it called Spinosad. And then Spinosad, you can sprinkle that where the ants are crawling, and when they walk through it and eat it, they ingest it, or if they inhale it in through they don't have noses, they have openings on the sides of their thoraxes. When they inhale it, that will kill them, you know, that will kill them. There's also really great ant repellent, and there's a granular form of it, and then there's a liquid spray that you can spray. It's called the household insecticide, and that's from Bonn also. And you spray that, and it leaves a residue for 4 months. So that is one of my best to help get rid of ants. And I'm seeing, okay, you said you've got ants in the garden, it sounds like. Okay, I would use those granulars around on the edges, and that will take care of it. I have grass growing in my garden. How do I get rid of it and keep this from happening? Okay. The cool thing is in your garden, and I don't know if this is a vegetable garden or an ornamental garden, and I didn't bring it with me today, but there is a phenomenal product, and we carry it from Ortho. It's called Grass Be Gone. And when it was originally out in the trade, it was a product, and it was a different company, and it was called Over the Top, because you could spray over the top of ornamental plants, and it would just kill the grasses that are growing up through them. And that's what you can use on, you know, in your garden. Now, this is, how do I get rid of it, and how do you keep it from happening? All right, if you don't want those seeds to germinate, and again, I don't know what kind of garden it is. If it's like a vegetable garden where you're planting seeds, or it's a flower garden where you're just setting plants in. And if you're not planting seeds, and you can use preen on those beds. Once you get them all cleaned up, sprinkle preen down, and then that keeps any seeds from germinating, whether it's grass seed or you know, weed seeds. So that's what I do in my gardens. I get them all cleaned up, and then I put preen down, and I put the preen down every 3 months. It lasts. I use the synthetic form, and it lasts for 12 weeks. The organic form is based on corn gluten meal, and it only lasts 8 weeks. So you have to use that every 2 months. But either is really worthwhile doing that. So great question. And don't forget Grass Be Gone, and it's in a ready to spray bottle. Okay, how do you stop rabbits from eating my herbs and newly transplanted tomato plants? The best product that is out there is the Liquid Fence Dual Action Rabbit Repellent. And the problem is all the baby rabbits are out there now. And baby rabbits don't have a sense of smell or taste, and they'll eat through any repellent until they get to be mature. So the Liquid Fence Dual Action Rabbit is so good because it has cinnamon in it. Cinnamon irritates the rabbit's mouth. And then it also has capsaicin. It also irritates the rabbit's mouth. So they just go someplace else to eat, and they stop bothering plants. The other thing that I would highly recommend is we've got a kit it's a rabbit fencing kit, and it's 18 inches tall, the sections, and the sections they're wire fence sections, 18 inches tall and 2 feet wide. And then the ends kind of zigzag, and they mesh together, and there's a wire post that goes through. So you don't have to have stakes, you don't have to have nails and hammers and staples. It really is wonderful. And one kit, I believe they're $26.99 or $29.99. One kit actually will do a 4x2 garden area. And so if you have a larger area, just buy more than one kit. They're glazed with a beautiful green colored paint that doesn't chip off. And they really keep the rabbits away from the plants. It's really excellent. I highly recommend. My own garden is surrounded by that, and I love it. Okay, now planting dahlias and tomatoes. That's an interesting combination. Okay, tomatoes, you wait, now it's warm enough and you plant them. Now tomatoes are interesting. They're the one plant that we recommend that you plant deeper than when it was normally growing in the pot, because you'll get a lot of extra roots that form along the stem. So you can plant it 2 inches deeper than how it was growing in the small pot that you get it from. And then you'll get extra roots and better tomatoes. And so that's it. Now dahlias, you start those inside and then, put them outside, and they should be planted at the exact level, that they were growing. And then, just, get them in the ground and get them mulched and just give them fertilizer, and man, just enjoy the gorgeous flowers. Okay. Now I have I have a couple more that came in late entries. Okay. And my phlox plants are looking wilted. I first assumed it was frost damage. I cut the bad parts off and it has come back. So it can't be frost damage. Yeah, it can be. It sure can be. It could have been that hard freeze on Mother's Day. And it's only on some of my phlox plants. Now, I wish I was here to ask you this, but if the ones that are damaged were all in the same area, then that's where the hard freeze landed. And if it's not, look to see if, which ones were damaged. And it's a little too early for any of the fungal problems on it. So I can almost bet you that, it was definitely from that hard freeze, 3 weeks ago, just on the new shoots that were just coming out and emerging out of the ground. Okay, the next question. Oh, okay, this is kind of interesting. What happens if the clematis is too tall for the fence? I was gonna suggest, get a taller fence or get a taller trellis, or it depends on what type of clematis it is. So I'm going to ask you, whoever sent me this, I have a name. I have a name on here, and I'm going to have you send me a direct question to Jennifer B at shalleynursery.com and tell me what type of clematis, because if it's the autumn clematis, then I would just prune it back because it flowers on new wood. Well, all the clematis do. So you prune it back to 3 feet from the ground. And then when that new growth comes, the flowers are going to be at your eye level rather than all the way up in the tree where you can't see them. So that was an interesting question. All right, then the next question. Oh, Zephyrine Duran, the climbing rose, doesn't look diseased at all, but the flowers are only lasting 2 to 3 days. That's just because of the heat. When it gets 95 like it did, oh my gosh, these poor plants, they just fizzle out. I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm a flower, when I was in that office when it was 95 degrees, oh my goodness, it was just terrible. So now give the Zephyrine Duran some fertilizer, either the Dr. Earth Rose and Flower fertilizer, 1 cup around the base, or also rose tone. And you would do that each month with rose tone. If you're using the Dr. Earth, do it the 1st of June right now and the 1st of August. And they'll just, you'll get great flowers. I haven't seen any samples of diseases on any of the climbers like that, on the Zephyrine Duran. But if you have a photo, send me a photo at Jennifer B at shalleynursery.com, and I can give you an even better answer. Now, I'm looking at the time. How are we on time? Oh, I'm right on schedule. So now I can answer some more of these. Okay. Oh, here's another question. Will Bud and Bloom help Rose of Sharon? Absolutely. 1 cup around the base of the Roses of Sharon. Do it now and do it again in August, the 1st of August. You'll be amazed. Okay, my Iberis have bloomed. Do I need to deadhead them now? The nice thing about Iberis is they're pretty much self-cleaning. So, the new growth will grow up over around it. It never hurts to deadhead, but it's one of those plants you don't have to, because it flowers early in the spring and the new growth grows around it. That was a good question, a really good question. What's interesting is I don't understand why I've got two sets of chat boxes, but okay, here we go. I'm going to just move this one. Oh, I can't do that. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Ooh, I did it. Okay, the systemic. Okay, I've noticed several hornets. I think they are hornets in my barberry. I've seen them enter and exit from the base of the shrub. Ooh, that's not a hornet. That's one of the it's called a borer, and those are actually clearwing moths that look like hornets. And what they're doing is they're going in, they're laying eggs at the base of the plant, and when those eggs hatch, the larvae burrow their way in and chew out the stems. Are you seeing any dead stems on the barberry? Kind of look at that. And what is safe to spray on that is get the tomato and vegetable fertilizer, and it works just as effectively as the systemics. It's even better to spray on those stems, and when the larvae hatch, then it will kill them as and if the adults are still flying in and out to lay eggs, then spray. And then I would spray. I would, as long as you're seeing the activity of those wasps, or it's they're actually stem borers, keep spraying. I would spray once a week as long as you're seeing them. That will prevent that damage. That's very observant that you saw that. Okay, what is safe to spray to kill the hornets, and also preventative. Okay. If you can use the systemic insecticide on them. That's the tree and shrub, and what that will do will kill the larvae that are feeding on the stems, and then as they chew their way out, it will kill them. It also will kill them if they chew their way in. But any contact or systemic will work. Okay, now can I plant my caladium bulbs in the ground this weekend? Sure, absolutely. The caladiums love it warm, and our cells are now warm enough that you can get them going. Okay, bearded iris plant transplant. I did the procedure well. The depth is good, lots of sun, but they're not flowering. They're nicely leafing. Are they going to bloom this first year after transplanting? If you just recently did the transplanting, that will interrupt the bloom cycle, I'm afraid. If they were transplanted early, like April, you could still get blooms and blossoms. If you did divisions, and if you're transplanting, oftentimes you do dividing as well. And so there might not be enough roots. What happens when you do that is that the nutrient that is required for flowers is also the nutrient that's used by the new roots that are forming, and they'll rob Peter to pay Paul. So you might not get the flowers on it. I have something fun to share. My dad wanted me to go to my grandfather's farm to get my grandmother's irises. We visited the farm, it was 5 years ago, and I usually am not down there. My mom had died in the spring. We were down for her funeral, and we went out to the farm just after the funeral was over, and I noticed the irises, and I said, oh my gosh, Daddy, we need to get those. So I was able to do it 3 years ago, and transplanted them, and the irises had not bloomed at all in those first 2 years. And guess what? They're in bloom now. No, well, their buds are there now. This is the first year. So oftentimes it takes 3 years after you transplant really long-term, perennials like that. So give them fertilizer. If you give them enough fertilizer, if there's enough for the roots, then there'll be enough to help, the flowers as well. So the Blossom Booster is good, or the Bud and Bloom from Dr. Earth. I love the transplanting solution Root and Grow, because it's a 4-10-3 fertilizer. So you have that 10% phosphorus that's enough for the roots, and then there's a little left over from the flowers. And then it also has the rooting hormone, so it encourages those roots to really grow well. So I'm making sure that, here's a couple more. Is there anything to get rid of onions popping up everywhere in the flower garden? You know what? You can use the, if you want to use the Earth Friendly Natural, use the Natria on onions and chives. They're onions and chives. that are growing up. Use that iron Additive will take care of the onions, and then spray it on, and then make sure that if there's sun, that will cause them to burn out. Okay, now Iris must not have enough roots. Thanks, I did transplant last year. Okay, give them some fertilizer now. It's not too late. They might go ahead, and I should have asked you what type of iris it is, but if it's the tuberous iris, they need to get established before they'll do that. They do that, and they love fertilizer. They love fertilizer. They're heavy feeders. So okay, you know what? I'm looking at my watch. I've got another 5 minutes, and I think I've covered everything. I've got some more gooey fun samples that I could talk about if you want to see those. I'm so mad I didn't bring the Viburnum one, because it was real neat. We talked about this. We talked about this. Let me look at this one right down here. I have another note right here. Oh, okay. All right, I did that one. And okay, let's check. I have more notes here. Okay. I have covered all the questions. You all are great to send all these great questions. How do you like my backdrop? Karina, our merchandising person, made it look really gorgeous, didn't it? I love these Gerber daisies. They're so much fun and so gorgeous. And okay, I saw how much. I'm gonna get some more of my samples. Okay. All right, now this is a fun one. Everybody, I knew why I put this in. Okay, now look at this. All right, so I do science experiments. And so I save these samples with the Boxwood leaf miner in it. And you can see where the enters now, and I save it. So I'm gonna hold it up. See, oh, it's kind of gross, but look, see the adults in the bag right there? I'm gonna point. Those are the adults that emerged, and you can see their wings and their legs. And those are the little tan colored gnats that emerge. They don't have to eat because their larvae have been eating inside the middle of the leaves. They eat all the mesophyll between the two epidermal layers. And they've been feeding all year from last May to now. And when the larvae pupate, and then as soon as they pupate, it's like a butterfly that pupates, and then they turn into adults. They chew their way out of the leaf, and then all they have to do is mate. They find another mate. They mate because they don't have to feed at all. They mate, and then they come back and they lay eggs on the new emerging shoots of the boxwood. So if you've had this problem, make sure you use a systemic insecticide on them, either the spray or the drench. And then, that will control it. You won't have the damage going forward. When those eggs hatch that they lay, then those larvae, when they chew their way into the leaf, it will kill them. So this was really a cool sample. And this was actually, it was a sample I'd been holding because this was so good. And I noticed, I'm going to show you again. I noticed the adults in the bag, and everyone thinks I'm so weird. See the adult right there? Isn't that amazing? And there's a whole bunch in the bag. I know, it's so weird, isn't it? Okay, so there's that one. And I have a really icky piece of lettuce from someone's garden that had the little leaf beetles on it, but it's molding, so I don't want to show you that. And I think that's it. Do I have any more questions? I don't think so. I think we're good. And it says, I am learning more from you in an hour than a week of reading. Oh my gosh, that is so nice. Thank you. And is Chalet getting any more veggie plants? This is such a fun way to spend an afternoon. Thank you. Yes, we got a bunch of basil yesterday, and we will be getting some more. We've got tons of great tomatoes, So come in and take a look. Thanks, lots of great info. You all are so wonderful. Thank you so much. And I think I caught all of them up. And we've got 3 minutes. I'll just kind of keep staying here in case any more questions come up. And then again, if you have anything in between, you can always email me at jenniferb@chaletnursery.com. And now it's time to cough. Pardon me. More of my iced tea from my Yeti. All right. All righty. Thank you, everybody. See you next week. Okay, bye now.